no grand prize worth $42.4 million. The next drawing is Saturday night, with the odds of winning roughly 1 in 292 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Seeing a busy drive on that 710, slow and go on the 60, and troubles in Mid-City, Santa Monica Freeway 10, west 10 as you get towards Normandy. A crash now cleared, but right around Vermont, a busy drive. Our 60 westbound, right as you get to Fairway Drive. Earlier wreck cleared, but we're loaded up here from the 57. Troubles in Long Beach on the 710 south at Del Amo Boulevard. Reported an accident, but they haven't said which traffic lanes, if any, are blocked. We do have that slow drive from Elise Florence. Studio City, stalled vehicle on the 101 south as you get towards Vineland. That is in the left lane, covered away from the Van Nuys area. A very busy drive.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowes.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey. I got nothing but love for you, baby.
What you got?
I got nothing but love for you, honey. I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey. I got nothing but love for you, baby. I got nothing but love for you, honey.
I miss Heavy. I miss Heavy D. He sounds as good now as he ever did as we celebrate 50 years of hip-hop. The song stylings of one Heavy D on Tavis Smiley. 2 great conversations in this hour. I mentioned earlier in today's program that it's September, and for those of us who know a little bit about publishing, I've written a few books in my career. September is one of those months where a bunch of new books drop, and we are fortunate on this program to have a number of great authors coming through here in the month of September as many of these new books come out. We'll get to that in just a second here. On the back side, the B side of this hour, a conversation with Larry Irving about a life, a perilous life intertwined with drugs and guns, and eventually realizing that his late mother was right all along, that education was the life-changing answer that he'd been seeking. We'll talk to Larry Irving about this harrowing story and a path to redemption, as it were, on the back side of this hour. We commenced this hour, though, in conversation with Dr. Roxy Manning. Her new book is called The Anti-Racist Heart. A Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. Just had a brilliant conversation with Dr. Bettina L. Love. Her book is called Punished for Dreaming, about the war against black children in our schools. And so here we are now continuing that conversation, as it were, with Dr. Roxy Manning. Dr. Manning, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
It's a great honor to have you on. Thank you for the time that we have here. The Anti-Racist Heart, a Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. Dr. King once said that we cannot legislate morality. We cannot legislate morality, which is another way of saying that we can't legislate the way people feel in their heart. There's nothing we can do about that. So when you speak of an anti-racist heart, how does that happen? How does one curate an anti-racist heart?
I love that question, and especially the idea that we can't legislate morality. And I first got to say that it's important that we have the people doing the legislation, the people who are fighting to make sure that the laws that protect equity, that give us equity, happen. But we also need to start changing people's hearts and minds. And that's what my book is about. It's around how do we get people to reflect on some of the reasons why they have some of these beliefs, to notice when they're doing things that are causing harm, and to feel motivated to try to change it themselves, even if the legislation's not there.
Yeah. Shakespeare once, not Shakespeare, Socrates. I quoted Shakespeare last hour. Now I want to go to Socrates. Socrates once said that the unexamined life is not worth living. That's Socrates. The unexamined life is not worth living. What Socrates didn't tell us is that the examined life is hard. It's hard to look in the mirror. It's hard to be introspective. And so when you talk about the anti-racist heart and people taking stock of who they are, of being introspective, that's really not the way that many human beings work and move, certainly in this country. Our arrogance, our hubris. I'm not so sure that people are willing to be as introspective as they need to be to examine their heart, to curate, as I said earlier, an anti-racist heart. Maybe you feel differently. I'm just not sure that we're willing to be that introspective, particularly in a divisive moment like this in our democracy. But what do you say, Dr. Manning?
Well, I think you're absolutely right that there are some people who are at the ends who are not willing at all. You know, they're doubling down on hate. But there are a lot of people that I come in contact with who say, I want to do better. I want to figure out how I can show up, how I can repair the harm I've caused, and they don't know how to do it. So that's who these books are for, the people who are saying, I recognize that harm has been happening, and we got to do better. And those people have been trying.
What does it mean? Let me just ask that a point blank question. What does it mean to try? What does that mean?
Ooh, good question, right? Because sometimes people just say, well, okay, I said something, I did it, let me just drop it now, like we're going to stop talking, and that's not trying. For me, trying means that, and especially when we're talking about dialogue, that I give you space to be heard fully about what your experience was, right? So all too often people are like, okay, so you're saying that I said something that you didn't like. Okay, I heard you. Can we stop talking about it? But that's not actually trying. Trying means that I get to tell you not just what I understood from my perspective, but you get to empathize with me. You get to see my full humanity, and then we get to talk about how do we repair this. We get to move towards action.
Is there a distinction in your mind between hearing and listening?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if you've been in a relationship where, you know, you and your partner are having a fight and you're like, I'm hearing you, and all you're doing is hearing those words come in and they're going out and you're just like really killing time until it's over, right?
Yeah.
That's hearing. But listening means that I'm actually trying to connect to your humanity. I'm trying to understand what's important to you. Even if I don't agree with what your experience was, I still want to see it from your perspective. I want to understand, how did this impact you? How did it move you? And I'm really connecting to your needs.
Her name is Dr. Roxy Manning. Her book is called The Anti-Racist Heart, a Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. We'll go right inside the text when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
Escalade IQ.
This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since '92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Coming 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lathan and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, you know. Oh, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and, they're putting their money where their mouth is at, So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community. And, you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase and, give them, another look if I go to another institution. I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right. Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event, or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Dr. Roxy Manning. She's author of the book, The Anti-Racist Heart, a Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. She's a clinical psychologist and certified trainer at the Center for Nonviolent Communication and offers her expertise in this new book, The Anti-Racist Heart. Before I get back to the book itself, this notion of what you do every day as a certified trainer and psychologist at the Center for Nonviolent Communication, that jumped out at me when we were prepping for your appearance on our program today. What does it mean to be engaged in communication that is nonviolent? So it's a wonderful turn of phrase, nonviolent communication, but unpack that for me, please.
Sure thing. So a lot of your listeners are, of course, familiar with Dr. King. Mm-hmm. And the idea of nonviolence is coming from his work, from the idea of we need to show up with nonviolence in terms of how much we're holding love, holding compassion, holding care, but we're also showing up with fierceness. We're trying to make sure that we call out the harms that are happening in society to our peoples, to all peoples, and that every dialogue that we take, every action that we take is trying to create equity without harming anyone else. Equity through building beloved community so that everybody's needs are met. And that's what we're doing when we're talking about nonviolence. How can we show up fiercely talking about the things that need to be talked about, but without shaming, blaming folks so that we're casting some people out?
Yep. To your invoking the word equity, it seems to me that in this country we scarcely talk about equality, and I say scarcely. When we do talk about it, we give lip service to it. There's no real deep conversation about what it means to be living in a society that is where people are truly equal. Again, we pay lip service to it, but we can barely talk about equality. But you're raising a very different issue, which is equity. I don't know how we ever get to equity in a society that doesn't even want to really address the issue of equality. Your take?
Well, I think we just got to keep working at it. So, yes, people don't want to address equality, much less give people what they actually need to start thriving to get to that same level where all of their needs are being met.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that we give up on having those conversations. We give up on having taking action to create new laws, to do everything that needs to happen to create equity. And that's happening. There are people out there who are saying, yeah, I'm not going to stay quiet while you take away resources from my child's school. I'm going to keep fighting for this. I'm not going to stay quiet while we have this school to prison pipeline that's disparately affecting people of color disproportionately. I'm going to speak up against that, and we're going to keep fighting that fight. And that's what I think is important when we're fighting for equity. Even though they don't want to hear it, we don't give up.
Yeah. So you use the word equity, hence my question about equality versus equity. You also use the word empathy, and I want to talk about empathy versus sympathy. Obviously, equity and equality are not the same thing. Empathy and sympathy are not the same things. We can scarcely get to feeling sympathetic for people, but when we do, we never really find our way to being empathetic. And it seems to me in a nation, we discussed this earlier in the program today, in a nation that is as divided as this country is, in a nation that is on the precipice of failing. Our democracy is fragile. I'm trying to understand better, trying to find a way to believe that we can ever get beyond sympathy to true empathy in this country, being willing to put ourselves in the shoes of the other. We're in a frame right now where everybody believes that the truth is whatever they determine it to be. That's not hearing, that's not listening, it certainly ain't being empathetic. But what say you?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. Sympathy isn't working because sympathy means that I'm feeling sorry for you, but in the act of feeling sorry for you, I still see you as an other, as different from me. And empathy means that I'm actually seeing that we have shared humanity. We are actually kind of the same underneath the skin, different experiences, different lived experiences for sure, but at our core, we are still human beings. And that from that place of shared humanity, I feel moved by your experience and want to support equity. So I think it's possible, but how do we get there? Because that's what I'm hearing you ask. I think part of it is that we need to do a much better job of ending the kind of unspoken segregation that's still happening, right? Schools are still, our neighborhoods are still very much like black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, Asian neighborhoods. We're still segregating each other. We don't get to see each other, understand each other, talk to each other. And without that, we can't actually get to that place of empathy. Yep. So we need to find strategies to start increasing just even contact with different groups.
You talked earlier, Dr. Manning, about connecting to the humanity in the other. Let me preface this question. My view is, and I've said this repeatedly, this audience has probably heard it countless times, but my view is that as human beings, we never come into the fullness of our own humanity unless and until we can revel in the humanity of the other. You will never experience the fullness of your own humanity unless you can respect and revel in the humanity of the other. Here you come now talking about the challenge to connect to the humanity in the other. As we talk about the anti-racist heart, we have to connect to the humanity in the other. Help me understand how we do that in a society, in a world where people continue to advance this notion that they don't see race. People advance this notion of color blindness. Well, if you're colorblind, if you don't see race, put another way, if you cannot see me for who I am, how could you possibly connect to my humanity? How could you possibly see that there is dignity and humanity in me?
Absolutely. So you've mentioned the first book I wrote that just got released this month, The Anti-Racist Heart. Mm-hmm. In my second book, How to Have Anti-Racist Conversations, I also talk about this piece, that we have been set up to think it's okay not to see the other person's humanity, to say things like we're so afraid of being called racist. If we say I did something that was harm, that we can't acknowledge that you are different than me, that you're black, you're Asian, you're Latinx, right? And if I can't do that, if I can't speak to the very real differences, not real as in race is real, it's constructed, but it's something that has meaning in today's society. And if I can't speak to that, I have no hope of understanding your experience. And so what I need to be able to do is to start with my inner work. I need to start losing the fear of acknowledging that, yes, we live in a society where we have treated people badly because of their race, where we have killed people because of their race, and that I have been part of that system. And if I'm able to acknowledge that for myself, if I'm able to acknowledge how I feel afraid when I see, like I'm a black person, when I see a white person walking down the street who might want to harm me, I might feel fear. And I need to be able to acknowledge that that is real. And once we're able to acknowledge our real experience and to see these differences, we can start to heal from it.
I want to go right inside the book now. In this thought-provoking work, again called The Anti-Racist Heart, a self-compassion and activism handbook, Dr. Manning invites readers to embark on a transformative journey. She combines neuroscience exercises, insightful questionnaires, and introspective, there's that word again, introspective journaling prompts. Take me inside the book and tell us what we see when we get inside your text.
Mm-hmm. So the book, The Anti-Racist Heart, I actually co-wrote with my colleague Sarah Payton. And one of the things that we do is we invite people to start to notice some of the unconscious contracts, the kind of agreements we make with ourselves that keep us from being able to do exactly the things that you've been naming on the show, that keep us afraid to face and fully acknowledge somebody else's humanity or to acknowledge where we might be creating harm. And if we're able to essentially travel backwards and understand why we've made these contracts with ourselves, a common contract is, I cannot do any harm, because if I harm somebody, I'm going to be cast out. Maybe my mom will be mad at me. Maybe my community will reject me. And so we tell ourselves we can't do any harm. But if I have this contract, it also means I can't admit when I've done harm. And now we've got this barrier to being able to face reality. So we help people find and look at these contracts, and then we help them start to look at where do the conversations fall apart when we start to have these conversations, and what skills do we need to build in order to do it effectively.
We all know, excuse me, we all know that Hippocratic oath to do no harm. That's the oath that everybody in the medical profession swears to, that they will do no harm. And I love the way you brought this phrase in about, again, doing no harm. Are there people who really believe that even though they are human beings, they are incapable of doing harm?
Yes, I think it's actually that there are people who can't admit to themselves that they've done harm because it causes them to fall apart. It's like, if I've done harm, they feel like their world is over, that their only option, and this is actually part of what white supremacy culture has given to all of us, regardless of our race, it's like you're either a good person or you're a bad person. If you do harm, you must be a bad person. Who wants to be told that they're a bad person? And so people have these ideas inside of themselves that if I admit I've done harm, not that I can't do it, but if I admit I've done it, then I'm a bad person, so I can't admit it.
Yeah. I think there are many of us, Dr. Manning, and you know this far better than I do. You're the psychologist. I am not. But I in my life, in my work, and my witness, I've run into a bunch of people and been in a variety of conversations with individuals who I think want to champion publicly. They want to champion their deeply held values, but they find themselves hesitating. Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah. So it's almost like, how do I step up fearlessly for what I believe in? How do I say this is something that's important to me? And I think part of it is recognizing the reasons why we hesitate. You've talked about how divisive our country is. And for a lot of people, that means they're navigating. If I go to work and I say what you're doing at work is wrong, do I run the risk of becoming a target? Do I run the risk of all of a sudden not getting certain opportunities at work, maybe even being fired, right? Being blacklisted. And so people have these fears. And I think what I invite people to do is to say, and especially for people who are white, I want you to hear that every time you step back and say, I'm afraid of doing harm, I'm afraid of the risks for myself, you're basically leaving us on our own. You're leaving us to bear all the burden of that on our own. So part of it is just saying, I want to step up for my values because this is what it means to be an ally, to take on some of that risk, some of that burden.
Her name is Dr. Roxy Manning. The book is The Anti-Racist Heart, a Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. You're listening to her right now on Tavis Smiley. A few more minutes left in this conversation, Dr. Manning. Let me come at this in a way that I hope makes sense to you. Let me preface it. I believe in accountability and holding people accountable, holding myself accountable. I don't ever want to be in any relationship, personally or professionally, where there's no accountability. It just doesn't work without accountability, it seems to me. The question is how we hold people accountable without perpetuating division or being accused of perpetuating division. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to take this question in two parts, right? Mm-hmm. The first part is whenever I want to hold you accountable, I try to go away from just a judgment about you as a person. You're bad, you're racist, which doesn't actually hold you accountable and probably will lead you to shut down and become defensive. Mm-hmm. And I go into what you did and what the harm is. So when you said this, when you denied this person this opportunity, when you graded the student in this way, you had an impact that's affecting all of the Black students, all of the Latinx students in your class. So I'm being really clear on what the observation is and letting them know it's about the behavior, not about the person. That said, I always tell people I have no control how you're going to take my message. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak truth, and people will run with it wherever they want. No matter what I do, they can become defensive. They can say I'm like inciting division. I don't have control over that, but I will keep engaging with you and keep telling you, I didn't say you were bad. I'm just saying that what you are doing, the action is causing harm. And you get to change that action if you want. Do you want to try that?
Yeah. I think it's true that in life, all we know is what we're giving. We never know what people are receiving, yes?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine tell me many, many years ago, and I've been wrestling with it for years. And I believe he's right about this. As a matter of fact, I'll see him this week. I haven't seen him in a while, but we're going to connect this week, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this. And I'll tell him that I raised this issue with Dr. Roxy Manning on my program earlier this week. But he said to me a long time ago, he said, Tavis, there is nothing that we ever have to say or do vis-a-vis another human being that we cannot find a way to say or do in love. It's a tall order. It's a tall order. But there's nothing that we ever have to say or do vis-a-vis another human being, another child of God, that we cannot find a way to say or do in love. It's not easy, but that's his frame. Do you accept that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it sounds like your friend could have written my book, okay? Because this is part of what I want people to get, that we can call out harm, we can speak the really difficult messages, but we do it with love. And I always invite people to think about family. And not every family is great, I want to acknowledge that, but in families that work well, I'm not silent when you do something that's not working for me, but I speak up about it with love. I speak up about it with the idea that we're going to change this so it works better for all of us, and that you know that you still belong, you still matter. And that's what I'm trying to help people do.
She's a clinical psychologist, certified trainer at the Center for Nonviolent Communication. Her book is called The Anti-Racist Heart, a Self-Compassion and Activism Handbook. Her name is Dr. Roxy Manning, and you've been listening to her on Tavis Smiley. Dr. Manning, good to have you on this program. Thanks for your insights. I enjoyed it immensely.
Thanks so much for having me.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Stay with us.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. African-American Marvel actor Jonathan Majors' domestic violence trial is being delayed. It was set to begin in New York City Wednesday, but was rescheduled for next Friday, the 15th. Majors is charged with assaulting his then-girlfriend last March in New York City, causing bruising to her head and neck. The 33-year-old actor told police it was her who attacked him, but a judge issued a temporary order of protection for the woman. The Powerball jackpot continues to soar. With no grand prize winner in last night's drawing, the new jackpot now stands at $500 million. The cash value on that works out to $242.4 million. The next drawing is Saturday night, with the odds of winning roughly 1 in 292 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Seeing a busy drive on that 710, slow and go on the 60, and troubles in Mid-City, Santa Monica Freeway 10. West 10 is get towards Normandy. A crash now cleared, but right around Vermont, a busy drive. Our 60 westbound, right as you get to Fairway Drive. Earlier wreck cleared, but we're loaded up here from the 57. Troubles in Long Beach on the 710 south at Delamo Boulevard. Reported an accident, but they haven't said which traffic lanes, if any, are blocked. We do have that slow drive from Elise Florence. Studio City, stalled vehicle on the 101 south as you get towards Vineland. That is in the left lane, covered away from the Van Nuys area. A very busy drive.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Carolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities and sports figures, elected leaders and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Be ready for extreme heat in your area. On days when extreme heat is expected, take action to keep your home as cool as possible. Set your air conditioner to 78 degrees. If AC isn't available, close blinds and curtains on all windows and run fans counterclockwise. Or find your nearest cooling center. Transportation help may be available. Learn more at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Are you a small business owner? If so, you know that taxes can be a daunting task. But don't worry, you're not alone. At Wealth Management Financial Advisors, they specialize in helping small businesses with their taxes. They have the experience and expertise to help you file your taxes correctly and on time so you can focus on growing your business. They also offer a variety of tax planning services to help you save money on your taxes. Visit their website or call them today to learn more at wealthmanagementlb.com or 562-427-8877, 562-427-8877 or wealthmanagementlb.com.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
In this half hour, the harrowing story of how New Orleans native Larry Irvin, after a life intertwined with drugs and guns, realized that his late mother, his precious mother, had been right all along, that education was the life-changing answer he'd been seeking all along. Larry Irvin, good to have you on Tavis Smiley. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Tavis. Thank you for having me, brother. Never thought in a million years I'd be having a conversation with you, man. So it's a privilege, it's an honor. I think you're one of the greatest orators and speakers of my generation for sure. I definitely got you in my top three with Mike Tomlin, Jordan Peterson, and yourself, Mr. Smiley. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Man, that's quite a group right there, man. That is quite a group. I'm honored to be on that short list, man. Those are some bad brothers, man. So thank you for those kind words, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you. So thank you for your time. Let me start with this, and I'll work my way from here. Tell me about your precious mother. I want to start there. I love my mother.
Yes, sir.
And obviously you loved yours as well. But tell me about your mama to begin with.
Yeah, man. My mom, Marilyn Denise Irvin, man. She was a lifelong educator, and her impact. She was an educator, lifelong educator for the Head Start in New Orleans and Kenner and Jefferson Parish. And for 25 plus years before she passed away, she had a passion for kids, particularly early childhood education. And I had a chance to see it. She was a teacher's teacher, so being the son of an educator, I had a chance to see it from inside the house. I went to school twice, brother Tavis. I went to school for myself, and then I came home and I had my mama's pop quiz, and I had my mama's spelling bees, and she made me compete against my older sister Charlene. With quizzes and things of that nature and essays and things of that nature, man. So she just always set a very positive foundation for me academically, for my sister academically. It was always a passion of hers, and her passion spilled over to the community as well. She was one of those open door mothers where everybody in the community knew her. I couldn't go to the grocery store, couldn't go nowhere because I was Mrs. Irvin's son, Miss Marilyn's son. So in a sense, so that's who she was in spirit, man. Always in church, always teaching, always giving, benevolent, altruistic, an angel, man, still today for me.
Yeah, you about to make me tear up, man. As you talk about your mother, I'm thinking of my paternal grandmother, my father's mother. Adele Smiley was her name, and I knew that she was respected in the community, but I had no idea how beloved she was in her neck of the woods in Georgia, Midway, Georgia. To be exact, just outside of Savannah. Of course, I went to my grandmother's funeral, and I was asked to ask her grandson to speak and to eulogize her in part on this program. And I was just stunned and shocked. And I think about it now, and I get teary-eyed thinking about it. A little small community in Georgia, and her funeral was so big that there wasn't a church in town that could hold it. They literally had to go to the high school gymnasium. Wow. And they packed that thing out, man. This is my father's mother, but the funeral was in a high school gymnasium because they couldn't. Wow. It was the biggest venue in this small town, but a church would not hold all these people because she was such a servant in that community that everybody wanted to be there for her homegoing service. And it sounds like your mother was the same way.
The same way, man. She had that impact. Like I said, it's teaching for Head Start in particular. So working with the low-income students in the communities, man, and she just had a love for everybody, man. I have so many stories of just, being in the grocery store with my mom and kids running up with their mother or their parents and hugging my mom, and I'm just like, wow. Like I've always saw people gravitate towards her. She's just angelic spirit, invested herself, her body, her spirit, her soul into the community and to kids, man. And I think I fought it with all the power I could to not follow her footsteps because she begged me to be an educator, man. But she ended up having her way. You know, as she transitioned on, she still ended up having her way. And we're now here, man, talking to Tavis Smiley about brothers in education, man, and trying to develop more teachers, man.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment. Brothers empowered to teach. We'll get to that in just a second here. When you saw all that love coming at your mother, your precious mother,
yes, sir.
You saw that love coming at her. You saw the impact she was having in the community, and by your own words, you fought it. She's trying to pull you into this world as well, and you fought it. Why fight? Why resist?
I think Brother Tavis is just. I think for a lot of black men, we all kind of suffer with an identity crisis and grapple with an identity crisis. Speaking from a New Orleans context and growing up here in New Orleans, I think it's very similar to what the boys alluded to as far as this duality of consciousness. I think who am I?
Yeah.
A lot of times, there is a positive mother and black mother in the home, especially if you grew up in a single parent home. But when you go outside, like I had to, Brother Travis, and when you have to go outside, my mother worked 2 and 3 jobs to supplement income, right? We all know that story. And I had to go out and find masculinity and manhood for myself. And not all the time was those positive representations, but that influence is so strong. That criminal element, it's so ubiquitous. It's guns, drugs, that lifestyle. It's such an affirmation because you see it all the time. And I think sometimes for a lot of young men, man, who grapple with this identity, your mother can try as hard as she can to put you in a positive space and give you a positive context and a positive perspective on life. But when you go outside, man, that's such a strong pull on your identity, on who you are, how you view yourself as a black man. And I think I just grappled with it what a lot of young men did.
Yeah.
And I saw that lifestyle and I wanted that.
Did you ever feel like you were betraying your mother in any way?
Absolutely. I remember several times getting arrested, sitting in the dorm, waiting to see the judge, and I'm just like, how do I explain this? Because I know I'm letting her down. She set a certain tone, right, from her family. People know her as being an educator, so people are always expecting. I'm not expecting. People are not expecting Miss Madeleine's son, right? People are not expecting Miss Madeleine's son to be locked up, to be getting gun charges and narcotics charges and things of that nature. So it was an embarrassment on multi levels, not just for myself, but for my mom and what she tried to, the path she tried to set for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. But eventually, as we all do, if we're fortunate, if we're blessed, we have these epiphanies, right? We can all make mistakes. We are not human. We're not human and divine. We're just human. We all make mistakes, and eventually, if we are fortunate, we're like that prodigal son that comes to himself. Sometimes you got to be eating slop with the hogs. You got to have that experience that the prodigal son had to come to yourself, and you had some experiences like that when you found yourself serving as a pallbearer at the funerals of your cousin and a close friend. Something hits you. When we come forward, I want to hear what that moment of epiphany was about for you. And let me just say before we move forward that once we hear about that moment of epiphany and what turned him around and realized that his precious mother was right all along, that education is where he belonged, we'll talk about how he became then the founder and chief executive officer of Brothers Empowered to Teach, BE2T, they call it, BE2T, Brothers Empowered to Teach. This is a great opportunity, given that he mentioned he is a New Orleans native. A good chance for me to shout out WBOK, 1230 a.m., one of the stations that carries the Tavis Smiley program.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton. And I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
The Black Hollywood Education and Resource Center proudly presents its 25th annual Real Black Men Short Film Showcase, September 22nd through September 24th. Join us for the opening night celebration on Friday, September 22nd, and enjoy the short film showcase featuring 47 films by emerging black male directors from across the country. Continuing on Saturday, September 23rd and Sunday, September 24th. All events will be held at the Regal LA Live Cinemas, 1000 West Olympic Boulevard in downtown Los Angeles. For more information and tickets, visit bherc.org. That's bherc.org or call 323-957-4656. That's 323-957-4656. Don't miss your chance to celebrate excellence in black cinema all weekend long at the Real Black Men Short Film Showcase. See you there.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and is powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed. Larry Irvin, I was saying moments ago that the prodigal son, we were told, eventually came to himself. You had your own epiphany a few years ago. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think it was just after my mom passed. I really had to take a step back and be really introspective about what was going on in my life. Right as she passed, I had caught another gun and narcotic charge. And I was just going through a slew of trials and tribulations and calamities. As you mentioned, and I want to commend you for doing your homework. A couple years after she passed, my cousin Danny in the 8th Ward in New Orleans was gunned down in this BMW. Shortly after that, my best friend Rashad had a heroin overdose. And I think for both of those funerals, I was a pallbearer for both of those funerals. And I remember just each time carrying those caskets, Brother Travis, just having these moments of clarity and asking myself why. I just continue to ask myself why. I spent a lot of time with those guys. We made a lot of the same decisions. Spent a lot of time with them, and I just kept asking myself, why am I getting these chances at life, these second, third chances, if you will, at life to do something better? And it became clear to me that I had to make a change. And I wanted to look for something different, something positive. And to really, my mom's voice started ringing in my head. She always told me, Larry, you would be a great educator. You got great communication skills. You connect with people. So I went back to my alma mater. I went back to my alma mater at Bonneville High School. Went back to talk to one of my football coaches, just really looking for something, looking for any type of attachment, because I couldn't use my my education from LSU because of my criminal background. Even though I went to LSU for journalism, I couldn't use it because I couldn't get past a criminal background check because of the charges that I alluded to. So I went back and asked to just if he had anything for me, if I could volunteer football coach or something like that. And he gave me a job. He gave me a volunteer job to coach defensive line. One thing led to another, man. Teachers and students alike saw the impact that I had from day one. He then asked me to think about going into the classroom to be a sub. And I fought that as well. I fought that for like half the football season. And then I ended up going. I ended up going into the classroom as a substitute at my alma mater at Bonneville, man, and one thing led to another. I was just a natural. And I said, you know what? I don't see too many who look like me, but there's something here. And I want to explore this a little bit more, man. And then one thing led to another. I started doing some surveys at the local colleges and universities, Dillard and Xavier University, talking to black men, asking them their experience with black male educators. And on average, the average in K-12, their experience was one. I would ask them the question, how many black male educators have they had? And the average would be one. And I interviewed and surveyed over 150 students between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And I knew we had a market and we had an issue we had to address.
Yeah. We'll talk about how they're addressing that issue when we come forward. It's called Brothers Empowered to Teach. I'm just giggling here in studio. I've done this for so many years. I'm used to it now. It's just always funny to me. Whether you ask or not, if you're talking to anybody from Houston or New Orleans, they're going to tell you what ward they're from. It's like, it's funny to me. If you're from Houston or New Orleans, they're going to tell you what ward they grew up in, what ward they are from, what ward it went down in. It's like being from Detroit. They're going to tell you what high school they went to. You go to King, you go to Cass. You're going to hear about it if they're from Detroit. You do this as long as I've done. You get used to these kinds of things. I just find it really cool how people are connected to their local communities. You heard him say that he finally got on the good foot, to quote the Godfather James Brown. My way of saying that is the apple don't fall far from the tree. What he had honestly, because he got it from his mama. We'll talk about Brothers Empowered to Teach with Larry Irvin Jr. when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Got about 4 minutes left in this conversation with Larry Irvin Jr. Just about 4 minutes left. As I said earlier, the apple don't fall far from the tree. His mother kept telling him what his gift was, what his talent was, where he belonged. He resisted, and finally he ends up realizing that his mama was right all along. Tell me then about Brothers Empowered to Teach, Larry Irvin.
Yes, sir. So it's an undergraduate fellowship that we offer for teacher development for that's targeted at young black men. Our criteria is simple. You just need to have a 2.5, be enrolled halftime, at least halftime in college, and obviously be a young black male. What we try to do is take a gradual approach to exposing them, working with children early on with our after-school and K-12 partners. We pay them in an apprenticeship in exchange for their time and commitment. They get professional development, they get personal development, they get community. Brother Tavis, we're basically if you want to look at it as a community-based education program, because there are a lot of education programs being wiped out. Those budgets are being wiped out across universities and colleges across the country, and we're stepping up and giving an avenue and a pathway for black men who want to consider education to do so, and we're walking them up all the way through matriculation through our program up to the praxis, help with the praxis and placement and support after they graduate as well.
You are doing the Lord's work, man. You are doing the Lord's work. I had a conversation earlier today on this program about the fact that there's a war on black children in our school systems across the country, and part of the way to fight back, part of the way to win that war is to make sure that the exodus that we have witnessed of black folk leaving the teaching profession, that we do a U-turn in that regard, but specifically when it comes to black men. I'm not naive in asking this. I just want to hear your answer. What difference would it make? What difference does it make when the young black boys see black males in the classroom?
Man, there's so many layers to that, but I'll just try to say, kids are what they seek. So if we want to motivate and inspire the next generation of educators to come through, we have to provide the mirror, Brother Travis. And I think the deficit perspective as well. I think it affects all kids of all races and all walks that don't see black men teaching, leading from in front of the classroom from an intellectual capacity, not as janitors, not as football coaches, not as basketball coaches, not as disciplinarians, but as intellectual leads in front of the classroom. And I think just K-12 as a whole doesn't have the lens that's needed right now to see black boys. A lot of black boys and black children, black and brown children, are going through their K-12 experience not being seen and being invisible, man. And I think black men a lot of times bring that lens that's needed to bring the genius and tap into the genius of a lot of these young men that's being passed through and not ever really being seen or being humanized in their academic experience. For most of us, our K-12 experience was contextualized around behavioral expectations and not academic ratings.
Use the word genius now. Use the word genius a moment ago. I want to use it now and close this conversation by saying that what you are doing is genius. This program, Brothers Empowered to Teach, I wanted the audience nationally to be aware of, is genius at work. Somebody has got to do the work. As I say all the time, we find ourselves in life every now and again where we have to assign ourselves. We have to assign ourselves to do that thing that ain't nobody else doing that we all know needs to be done. So I'm so delighted that Larry Irvin Jr. is doing the work of getting black men into the teaching pipeline, into the teaching profession through this wonderful program called Brothers Empowered to Teach. I got 30 seconds left here. Let me close with this. What do you make of the fact that your mother's entreaties notwithstanding, she begged and told you repeatedly that this was the lane that you belonged in? She's gone now, and she's not here to see it in real time. But I'm just amazed that you just didn't get it right for yourself, but that you're now doing it for other black men. Your mother could never have imagined that you'd be on this path, not just for yourself, Larry, but you're getting all these other black men into the profession that she loves so much. What do you make of that?
I think just sometimes, God calls who he wants to call to get certain missions done. And I think I've been tapped. I've been given a certain experience, a certain duality of experience to tell this story, to lead this work, to inspire young men. And that's what's going on, Brother Travis, and we'll keep pushing.
Your mother is smiling on you, and that's a beautiful thing. I've never met a black man in my life who at some point would not tell you all he wants to do is make his mama happy, make his mama proud, make his mama smile. That's my story. That's my testimony. I'm sticking to it. I know it's yours as well. Larry, good to have you on. All the best in your working witness, brother. I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Brother Travis. Good to meet you.
My pleasure is all mine. Thanks for tuning in. That's our program for today. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until
KBLA
then,
1580.
Until then, hold up, Miles. Until then, keep the faith. Now you can go.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The family of a man who died after an NYPD sergeant